there, YouTube. I'm back again today for another game review. Today, I'm very excited checking out Input from Milton Bradley, a strategy game ahead of its time. This is for 2 players, ages 10 to adult. It'll take you about, 10 to 15 minutes to play. And in Input, you're going to have this cool plastic board that kind of looks like somewhat of a weird computer from back in the day. And you're going to be moving your pieces along these pre-programmed spots on a grid, trying to capture your opponent's pieces. It is a light, simple, abstract strategy game, but is it good? Let's open it up, and I'll tell you what I think. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what you're going to get inside of Input. So first and foremost, we're going to handy-dandy rule sheet. It is one really long page, double-sided, full color, full of pictures, illustrations, examples. Very well done, should have you up and running in no time at all. It's also a really simple game, so I can teach you how to play right now. So in Input, you are going to have your 6 pieces down here in this really cool plastic insert, and your goal is to capture all 6 of your opponent's pieces, which I actually have over here so I can see what the dots on the pieces are, because the dots on these pieces that you see down here are going to dictate where your piece can start off and where your piece is going to move. What am I talking about? Let's just actually show you how the game is played, and you'll very quickly understand. So on your turn, you are going to make one and only one move, and you have 2 choices. You can either put a piece from your starting area, from your private area into your starting area, which are these 3 dots out here. So that's the other team's starting area. This is your team's starting area. Or you can move your piece along the path on the piece. So for instance, if I wanted to move this piece out into the starting area, I would see that it would go out to the middle dot right there. And then let's just say my opponent does this. So he puts his piece right here. So now what I can do is I can either A, move out one of these pieces that would start over here or over here, or my other choice is that I could move this piece to its next dot, which would be right there. Now, if my opponent happened to be on underneath that spot right there where I just landed, then I would capture his piece and put it over here into the captured zone, at least his capture zone. But obviously, that was not the case. So let's just say this guy keeps moving right there. And then I decide, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and get this guy out. I'm going to put this piece right here. Ha! Foolish, because my teammate has, or my opponent, I guess I should say, has, boom, moved to that spot, because that's the next dot on his piece, and captured my piece. But luckily for me, I can spawn this guy right here and capture his piece as well. And maybe that was part of his plan. Maybe he wanted to go 1 for 1 because he already has the lead or something like that. I don't know. But anywho, it's important to note that you have 2 pieces that start here, 2 pieces that start there, and 2 pieces that start there. The only other thing you're going to be doing in this game is when you complete an entire action, an entire piece. So let's just say that this piece went up here, and now it's here. It's at its very last spot. So where does it go now? Well, as my turn, I can instead take this piece, put it back into my private area. It's completely refreshed, and I can put it out whenever I want to. You're going to continue to go until someone has captured all 6 of their opponent's pieces. If you can capture all 6 of your opponent's pieces, you will win the game. Now, there is also the potential for a tie. Both of you will have one piece that just can't capture each other because you're just going to be moving in the same grid over and over and over again. If that's the case, they just say start a new game because it is a really short game, but then in that case it is a tie. But that in a nutshell is what you're going to do inside of Input. Alrighty then, Input from Milton Bradley. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, game's not going to be for everybody for a variety of different reasons. 2 players, restricted player count. Also, this game has too high of a percentage of ties for my liking. I probably played about 6 games of this. The kids in my class played about 6 or 7 games of this without me. And I think we had about 3 or 4 ties where it just came down to each player having one tile that was just going in a circle over and over again. It was like, oh, they're never going to catch each other. That's not very fun. You shouldn't have that many ties in your game, in my personal opinion. This isn't soccer, folks. I mean, so yeah, I was not the fan of the frequent ties in this game. Also, for adults, this game's going to be a little bit too simplistic. For kids, that's not a problem. But for adults, there's just not enough spaces on this board. And I would have liked to have seen more spaces on this board, and maybe you just use certain spaces if you're playing the beginner's version, and bigger spaces. I don't know. I don't know how they would have fixed it. I mean, it's abstract strategy. Obviously, there's going to be a turnoff to some people. There is no real theme to this game whatsoever, aside from, hey, capture your opponent's pieces. Oh, but the biggest thing, though, is this game is an okay game, and for some people, this is going to be a good game, but that is clearly the boundaries for this game. No one is going to say, this is a great game, this is an amazing game, this is my favorite game of all time. I do not believe. And that's the biggest problem with this game. Moving on to the pros, it's an okay to good game. You know, if you find it at a thrift store for 50 cents to $1 and you have kids, I think you'll get that much entertainment out of the game. Also, if you have young kids, the components are really cool. This plastic thing that looks kind of like a futuristic computer or Roomba or something like that, a futuristic, when they designed this game at least, is actually pretty cool, and the tiles are cool, and the gameplay itself is interesting. That's the thing. This game is very okay. Some people think it's very good, but it's very interesting. It's just an interesting components and interesting mechanisms. I like the programming aspect of the game. But after that, it's really hard to recommend this game. So, in the end, input. Too many ties, not enough meat on the bones. It starts off interesting, but once the gimmick wears off, the gameplay itself is just okay. So that's Input, a strategy game ahead of its time from Milton Bradley. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below in the comments below. Let me know. What is something right now that you think is ahead of its time? For me personally, I'm going to go with delicious. Self-cutting lawnmowers. I think I actually just saw one of those on sale Black Friday. I don't think those are ready to poise to take over the market quite yet, like Roombas have, and all the the vacuum cleaners that do themselves. Purely because everybody has an area where they can vacuum, but not everybody has an area where they can mow the grass. So I feel like those prices are going to decrease at a slower rate than the Roombas did. And I eventually do feel like everyone is going to have self-driving vacuum lawnmowers. Just not yet. Not for the next 10, 15 years, which is really sad because I hate mowing my grass. But let me know in the comments below. What is something right now that you think is ahead of its time? And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.